Alright guys, in today's video, I am doing a very fun one. I am doing a full face of Charlotte Tilbury, except the foundation, and I am also testing out and reviewing the new powder bronzer that she just released. Absolutely gorgeous. And also the Desert Haze palette. This one right here, which has gorgeous warm tone. These are definitely peachy terracotta shades. So what I'm going to do right now is give you some swatches of them. And I do want to say I paid $66 for this palette here. This bronzer was $65. Again, I'm not really the best swatcher in the world, but these are the shades here. So the lightest shade here is very deceiving. In the pan, it looks like an ivory white. It's definitely not. It is a very light peachy, kind of, I would just say it's a light peachy shade that could work really well as a transition shade. If you are deeper complected, then that might work as a brow bone highlight, but this is definitely just a very subtle transition shade, which I love in a palette. This is definitely the second shade, which is the enhanced shade, is more of a peachy terracotta shade. Just gorgeous on the eyes. I think it brings out any eye color. I love this sort of shade. Then we have this shade right here, which is the smoke shade. It's definitely a warm brown, kind of on the chocolatey side. Has a bit of warmth to it, but it's definitely not as warm as the first two shades. And then we have the deepest shade, which is definitely the most neutral in tone, which is a great definition shade. I actually do not like blacks in palettes. I know I'm in the minority there, but I don't. I just don't like wearing blacks. I think it looks too harsh against my eye color and my skin tone and my hair color and stuff. I just think it's too harsh of a color on me. So this is great for me for a defining eye color without being black. I love these shades together. I'm actually very happy she released this. I know everyone thinks that they have these colors in palettes, and you probably do. Honestly, if you have the Pillow Talk Instant Eye palette, you definitely have these shades. I just like how she came out with this in a quad form because I'm someone who can be lazy and I just want to pull one palette, and I also want to use up my shadows. I'm not someone that hates hitting pan on stuff. I like to run through stuff so that I know that I got my money's worth. I 100% will go through this palette because I love every single shade in here. These are shades I wear on the daily. There's not one color where I'm like, ugh, I kind of don't like that. No, I'm going to use every single one. And for me, that is a good investment. So I really hope she makes this permanent because I will totally repurchase this when I run out of this palette. So please, Charlotte. And then the bronzer, I will quickly swatch for you. I love the size of it. I think it's perfect. I'm going to go over my final thoughts at the end, so you can wait to find that out. But this is just a very subtle, you can see it's like a biscuity shade. It's definitely on the warm side, and it's just slightly deeper than my skin tone. It's not deeper, cooler skin tone, it's deeper but warmer. So I would not contour with this. This is not a contouring product. This is a bronzing product. But I just wanted to create this peachy bronze look. I think this is absolutely perfect for the summer. I think these tones are amazing in the summertime. I just love warm tones in the summer because warmth. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy this peachy bronze look. This is definitely a go-to in the summertime for me, and I think it would look amazing if you have the Copper Charge or Queen of Glow. You can just use one of these shimmers, pop it on top, and you have your evening look, which is, again, perfect for the summertime. I'm so happy with these. As a spoiler alert, you'll probably see me talk about these in the future. I really hope you enjoyed this look and tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Like the video, share it, and I think that's everything. Ring the bell so you're notified of all my releases. And let's get into this look, the tutorial, and the review on the new releases. All right, let's jump into this Desert Haze palette. I have been awaiting the day that Charlotte Tilbury would release an all matte palette, especially with warmer shades, because that's my preference. So I'm gonna take the prime shade, which is this first shade in the palette. Gonna go ahead and set my primer. So what I put down is a little bit of concealer. I use the Pat McGrath concealer only because I actually hate that concealer under my eyes. So I thought I'd multi-purpose it and start using it as an eye primer just to kind of get rid of it and get use of it. So this prime shade, you can definitely tell she has changed her formula from what it was when she first released her palettes, and they're more on the powdery side, which to me just means it's a little bit more pigmented, which I guess people like. So definitely powdery, but that's not a bad thing. It doesn't look powdery on my eyes at all. This first shade, and it's just a really nice base color. But a lot of palettes are missing that these days, so I'm glad she included that. I'm going to go into the enhanced shade, I believe. Yes, the enhanced shade. So it's this gorgeous, it's like a peachy brown, definitely leaning a little on the orange side from just what I can sense in the palette. So I'm going to use that as the transition, starting on that outside corner, first placing the product there, and then I'm going to blend it through the crease. And I can already tell this is very similar to the formulation that's in her Pillow Talk, the Instant Eye palette. Definitely very pigmented, very easy to blend. It's very velvety in texture. Like if you feel the shadows, they're very smooth. Ultra pigmented. Again, different for Charlotte Tilbury. But I like that these, sometimes with really pigmented products, it can be harder to blend, especially as a beginner, which is why I really enjoyed her eyeshadow palettes. For beginners, I would suggest them to them because they were just so easy to use and easy to blend. But I still think if you're a beginner, you will have no problems with these palettes. They're not too pigmented that it's hard to work with. They just blend really nice. There's definitely a little bit of fallout, and I think that is because these are quite powdery. And I do recommend definitely tapping off the excess. You can see how much excess product I have on the back of my hand, and that's because I always go in like that with my brush, just to get off that excess product so it doesn't apply too much color right when you apply that onto your eye. Next up, I'm going to take the smoke shade that's at the very bottom here. So it's definitely deeper than this peachy shade. This definitely wasn't as warm as I thought it was, but it definitely is a warm eyeshadow. So if you don't like warm tones, you probably won't like this. I'm going to dip a little bit into this with my Sonia G Crease Pro. And I just want to smoke this out a little bit. So I'm just literally going like this back and forth on the outside corner of my outer corner on the eye. I'm going to bring it into that lash line, and then with that excess product, I'm just going to define the outside crease a little bit and being very light-handed, not applying too much pressure. This is a really pretty tone. It's like a warm tone, deeper brown, but not super deep, and it's also not super warm. Definitely not as warm as the previous peachy color. And again, it's blending in really nice. It's not muddying up with the other color, which is good when you're working with matte shades. And then I'm just going to run over the edges just to make sure there's no harsh lines with my first Sonia G brush that we applied the transition shade with. Next up, going into the Define shade, which is the darkest brown in this palette, is definitely a chocolatey brown that leans on the warm side. Perfect for a bronzy, peachy look. And I'm just going across the lash line from the outside corner inside. I'm being a little messy, not too precise with this. This is definitely the most neutral. Well, these two are the most neutral in the palette. The other ones definitely lean warm. All right, so instead of leaving the lid blank or just going in with that shade, I'm going to mix the first two shades back and forth together with my, again, Blender Pro brush, and I'm just going to sweep that across the lid. It definitely had some fallout, so I just cleaned up a little bit under my eyes, and I'm going to take just a little bit of the, smoke shade down here, just because I'm going to go in with a bit of the enhanced shade after I've applied my foundation and concealer and everything. But I just want to add a bit of color, and I'm being very precise to just keep this on the outside corner on the lash line, just outside the waterline. So I'm really happy with the look so far. I'm going to go ahead, add mascara, then I will come back and work on the face so we can finish that off together. All right, mascara is on, and I just want to mention something about this palette. It is a little deceiving. I went to highlight the arch of my brow bone because I forgot to do that. And this shade, it does look quite ivory on the pan, but when you swatch it, it's definitely a peachy, like a more peachy shade that would work better as a very, very light transition shade. Or again, you could set the lid, but I would not recommend highlighting your brow bone. It basically just turned under my brow bone like a peachy orange shade, so that was deceiving. Definitely use that more as a transition. Unless you have a darker complexion, then that might work as a highlight. So from here, I'm going to go in with the Charlotte Tilbury, oh god, this packaging, the Magic Away Concealer, and I am in the shade 4. I'm just going to take this under the eyes, and then slightly on the side here where I am blue. I'm just going to blend that in with my sponge. I actually haven't used this in a while, so this is a nice little treat because it is a little more full coverage than concealers I normally use. and it just makes the under eyes look so smooth. The problem I have with it is obviously the terrible packaging. But it is really nice, especially this is a concealer I would use more for evening time, just because it is a little more full coverage, a little more matte, but it is very beautiful on the under eyes, in my opinion. I forgot to mention that I went in to prime my skin with the Charlotte's Magic Serum. This is a new release from her, and I have been testing it out, but I've only been using it for about 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half, so I don't want to comment on it yet because that's not enough time for skincare. But this does work as a very beautiful primer. It just gives you a very subtle glow. It sinks into the skin really nice, and it makes your foundation stick on nicely. Kind of more like a tacky primer, so I like that when I want my foundation to have a little bit more longevity. So far I am liking this, but again, I will update you in a few weeks once I've been using it more. And next I'm going to go in with the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter and just apply that to the high points of my face where I want some glow. You guys know I absolutely adore this stuff. It's a holy grail product. It's something I've repurchased many a times and will continue to do so. So I'm gonna go ahead and just apply it in these areas and blend it in. So my preferred way is just to use this underneath foundation. It adds that very subtle glow. It allows me to go in with less foundation because this is an illuminator with slight coverage, but very minimal. It's stunning on the skin. It is literally a filtered effect. For foundation, I'm going to go in with two of my favorites, and this is the Dior Airflash and the Surratt Dew Drop Foundation. So since I am going for that summertime peachy bronze look, I actually really enjoy to mix a more dewy light coverage foundation with something that's a bit on the matte side that gives, I don't know, kind of that airbrushed effect, and that is also more on the medium coverage side. I just love the combination. I find it wears all day and you get the best of both worlds. This is just one of my favorite techniques, especially if I'm going for something more long wearing. And again, perfect for the summertime. This literally wears all day long. It's waterproof. It's an amazing foundation, but I typically don't like it on its own just because it is more on the matte side. And I like something that's more on the light side. And this is my favorite foundation of all time. Light coverage, a dewy finish, and it gives you, again, sort of that filtered effect. It's so pretty on the skin. I don't want to say it's flawless, but it gives you that light reflection that like diffuses, it diffuses the light on your skin and just gives you such a beautiful glow, but doesn't leave you with texture. Some foundations that are more on the dewy side leave your skin looking a bit more textured, but this just leaves a gorgeous veil and kind of tricks the eye with that light diffusion because it has some light reflecting properties. So just applying that with my beauty blender over the skin. And what I love the most about this is it still looks natural, the combination of the two, and it wears all day long. I don't have to touch it up at all. I'm someone who can be lazy in that regard, and I don't like to touch up my makeup. It's just a nuisance to me, so I do like something that wears all day long, that doesn't fade, doesn't wear patchy or anything like that, that just still looks like skin and looks very nice and long wearing. So yeah, just a thin layer of that. I still want the skin to look a little more natural because, I don't know, a bronzy look I think looks nice with more natural looking skin. Just going to quickly powder the under eyes. I am going to leave my face unpowdered as the bronzer is supposed to be more pore perfecting like her original powder, and I want to put that to the test. I'm going to take the Charlotte Tilbury Magic Powder. I have to say, you guys, it smells like expired crayons. It has a very strong fragrance in that way, but it's not fragrance in a perfume way. It just smells gross, to be honest. I don't like it, but this powder is really gorgeous. It adds this really nice brightening effect. It has a very subtle sheen. It reminds me of the Chantecaille loose powder. It's perhaps has a bit more sheen than that one and maybe not as pore perfecting, but I do really like this under the eyes. I enjoy it. It wears all day. It's a good one. I just prefer my Chantecaille one. Let's quickly finish off the under eyes. I'm going to take the enhanced shade and smoke out my lower lash line a little bit. So I'm going to start at the outside corner and I'm going to work my way inwards, but first I'm going to make sure to connect it up to that outside so it all flows evenly, and then just with that excess product I'm going to sweep it inwards and not blend as far down as I am on the outside corner. This is really nice on my blue eyes. It definitely makes them pop because it has so much warmth to it. Really nice. Moving on to the exciting part. Well, the eyeshadow was exciting too, but this is the brand new Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer, a matte bronzing filter for face and body. So that's awesome. I picked mine up in the shade medium, And because I want to see if this is a little more blurring, I'm going to take a very large powder brush. Definitely a powdery powder, but I'm not surprised because the airbrush powder is very powdery as well. And I definitely think I could have gone either for the medium or tan shade and just applied a lighter amount of the tan shade. This is, I don't know, I mean, it's a pretty average bronzer, a matte bronzer. And it's not super pigmented and like too warm on my skin. Like it's giving me a very light bronze look. And because I was going for a more peachy bronze look, I definitely wanted it to be a little more intense than what is showing up. So I'm going to build it up. But again, I take off that excess product because this is a matte powder product. I want to be careful that I don't look overly powdery, which I don't find with her airbrush like flawless powder and the face setting powder. It's so hard to go overboard on that one. So I'm hoping this will do the same. And obviously, I'm not contouring with this product. This is a warm bronzer, so I would not recommend that. But this is working really well. It looks so natural on the skin. I don't see it sitting on my skin, which is really nice. And I would agree that it is pore blurring. I mean, obviously on the edges of my forehead, I can't really tell, or on my jawline, but on my cheek area here, it definitely gives the same effect that the powder product does, her original powder. So that's exciting. But it's definitely a very natural bronzer. I would not, if I was going out or something and I wanted something a little more intense, I probably would go for something a little deeper, but this is a perfect daytime bronzer and it is doing a really nice job of just slightly warming up my skin. So I'm really liking this powder bronzer. I like that I don't need to powder my face to apply this product. Sometimes if you apply a powder product without powdering your face first, it can skip or look patchy. This one, not at all. But I'm going to just add a little bit of this lightest shade underneath my lower lash line. So I'm just taking one dip in, tapping off that excess, and I've applied a little bit of mascara on my lower lash line. And I'm just gonna blend that out because I actually wanna soften this up and really smoke out this lower lash line. So to add that little touch of peach on the cheeks, I'm going in with the Pillow Talk blush and I'm just gonna mix the two shades together. I'm not gonna swish and pop or anything like that. And just, that mirror is not very good in there. So back to this one and just pounce it on the cheeks to add that peachy glow. I really like this blush. I think it's so pretty. And again, peachy, bronzy vibes. This is the perfect blush for that. I'm not going to go too heavy-handed on the blush because I do want the bronzer to kind of be the star of the show. Taking my favorite Charlotte Tilbury highlighter and one of my favorite highlighters of all time. This is the Magic Star highlighter. This is limited edition, the holiday release, but it is still in stock, so I highly recommend checking it out. And this has a peachy undertone, so I thought it would work perfect on the inner corners of the eyes. It's gonna brighten the eyes up. Again, I couldn't use that lightest shade in the palette for that purpose. And this will just add a little bit of sheen to the eye look. I'm just wrapping this around just a little bit on the inside corner of the lid, but I want this to be predominantly matte. And taking that same highlighter and just applying it to the cheekbones, I'm going to take that excess product and blend it just a little bit here in a little C shape, really working this into the skin because I want this to almost melt into the skin, and this product will do it if you have a dense enough brush and just kind of buff it. And then with the excess product, I like to take it and hit the Cupid's bow and a little bit down the nose, but predominantly just highlighting the cheek. I'm choosing not to buff today because I really want to see how this bronzer performs without that. And yeah, and I know not a lot of people do, but if I were to, I think the YSL Touche Éclat pressed powder would pair beautifully with this whole look because it has a slight peach undertone. And I think with these peachy bronze eyes and then the kind of peachy bronzer, I think it would look really good. I have just lined my lips with my Pillow Talk lip liner. I'm gonna take the JK Magic lipstick and I'm just going to do a little pat just because my lips are a little dry, but I want a bit of this color. This will nude out the lip liner a little bit and not be as pink. And then for my lip gloss, I actually got this as a free deluxe sample size in an order where I put that the crystal serum in my cart. So I guess I got a deluxe sample size, so that was exciting. This is a beautiful peachy shade. This is actually the Collagen Lip Bath in Peachy Plum, so perfect for this look. And I'm just going to apply that on the lips. Ooh, that's a cool applicator. And it's slightly, like it's definitely plumping because it has that kind of slight tingling sensation. So if you don't like that vibe, you probably won't like this. But I just think that this whole look looks really nice together. As well with my dress too, because it's kind of that peachy coral shade as well. So I like to press that into my lips. Again, I don't like lip products sitting on top of the lips. I like it to be really sunk in, so I like to kind of blend everything together. Alright guys, so this is the final look. I hope you enjoyed this video and my review, first impression of these products. I want to quickly go over what I think of the final look. I honestly really love the Peachy Bronze eyes. I think it looks gorgeous. It's not overly warm toned. I think by the promo pictures, I originally thought that this eyeshadow quad was going to be very, very warm. It's definitely leaning on the warm side. There's no denying that. These are peachy, warm tones, kind of those terracotta tones, but gorgeous in the summertime. Gorgeous if you have really any type of eye color. Maybe if you're very cool toned in your skin color, might not be your favorite, and definitely if you don't enjoy warm tones. But honestly, I love how these blended on the eye, particularly when you're doing a completely matte look and you're not using any shimmers. Shimmers can really help make the look a little more blended, just because you have to be a little more precise with matte products. But honestly, this looks gorgeous. This is a beautiful everyday kind of eye look, especially for working in an office, just an easy breezy look. I threw that together so effortlessly. I love how the colors work together. I think they blended out really nicely, nothing muddied up with each other, which I think is very important. This is kind of my perfect quad, if I'm being honest. I love warm tones, and I would say if you have the Pillow Talk Instant Eye Palette, you do not need this. That's completely unnecessary because you will find similar tones in this. But I would love this for traveling. This is just great to pull out if you don't know what to do with your eye look. Sometimes I get overwhelmed by very large palettes, like even, not that I get overwhelmed with the Natasha Denona Biba palette, but it is a larger palette, and honestly, I'm not going to use every single shade in there. That's just a fact, because I don't love every single shade. I love every single shade in this, and I will completely use this up. So this is something I hope she makes permanent, because I would repurchase this 100%, because I know I will run through absolutely every color in this palette. And I love the formula. Velvety, buttery, easy to blend, doesn't muddy up, really pigmented. I think it would be great for beginners as well. Instructions, easy on the back. I just think I really am happy with this. And another thing I wanted to mention is this would pair perfectly with any of the shimmers in her palette, like the new releases from the Queen of Glow. This, and I'm just going to put these together. I'm sorry, but these two in conjunction would be amazing. I feel like to complete an evening look, like if I was just going to go out after this, I would just pop on maybe all these shimmers mixed together. Perfect. Even the copper, let's see here, sorry, the Copper Charge palette, amazing together. Like these just work beautifully together. So if you have any of these, this would be your perfect little warm tone palette. Just pop any of these on the eyes again, and you'd be set for a going out look. I'm going to run over the bronzer. Sorry that I am going on for so long. I'm really happy with this bronzer. It's a really nice formula. It's exactly like her Airbrush Flawless Finish Powder, which I adore. It really does perfect the appearance of pores. It doesn't look heavy on the skin. It doesn't look powdery. It doesn't emphasize any texture. It blended very nice over my unset foundation, which I love. If I can get away with not setting a foundation, that's kind of perfect for me, because I typically don't like using powder every day. I have drier skin, but this works great on dry skin. It's a really soft powder, velvety, more on the buttery side. This is definitely pigmented and a warm tone bronzer. If you don't like warm tone bronzers, then I probably wouldn't suggest this. It's kind of a biscuity color, and it's not as deep as some of my other bronzers, so it's a little more forgiving. Like, I don't even know if you can see that. It's just kind of like a deeper face powder. That's what it looks like to me. I probably could have gotten away with the tan shade. I might actually pick that up for, I don't know. Sometimes I like to wear a darker bronzer and just not apply as much product. This one I do need to build up a little bit, but that's fine by me. It's a very beautiful formula, like I said. I don't even know if I could compare it with any of my other bronzers. I'd say the tone is similar to the Chantecaille Serena bronzer. Very similar in tone, except that bronzer is a gel texture, so it's a little harder to pick up on a brush, and that also has a sheen to it. This is completely matte. I also love that you get so much product in here, 16 grams. I know a lot of people are comparing it with the Marc Jacobs bronzer. I don't think this is anything in formula like the Marc Jacobs bronzer. the size, yeah, but I actually really don't like that bronzer. I find it hard to like matte bronzers just because I do have dry skin. Sometimes they don't sit over my texture nicely, and sometimes they just don't look the best, but this might become, I can't say it's a favorite because I've only tried it once, but this will definitely be high on my list for a matte bronzer. I'll definitely keep you guys updated. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I don't want to drown this out too much, but please subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if you like it. Let me know down below if you're planning to pick up any of these products. Let me know what you think of this new collection. Again, subscribe, like, share if you want to share, and I'll see you guys in my next video.